Hello and welcome to the Doofcast, a film and TV podcast from Doof Media. I am your host, Scott Daly, and joining me, as always, it's Maestro Freeman. How's it going today, conductor man?
I'm just conducting the podcast from over here. I don't know if you can see, but I'm waving my arms.
You're
around.
doing so much.
You came in a little too soon there.
Shit. The funny part is I know you're joking, but there was a part of me that was like, did I? Anyway, this week on the show, it is part 5 of our ongoing series taking a look at the 10 Best Picture nominees in time for the 2024 Oscars. This week, we are taking a look at Bradley Cooper's musical biopic, Maestro, a film that I had pretty low expectations for and feel very complicated about, but we'll get there. Then Matt, I thought it'd be fun. You know, it's February now, and we haven't really talked about 2024 at all. So I thought it'd be fun for us to list our top 5 most anticipated films of this next year.
Sounds awesome. I had a lot of fun preparing my list. I look forward to sharing it with you.
I mean, it is going to be interesting. We'll get into this in more detail at that point in the show, but I was like, have to do this thing where I'm simultaneously preparing my list while being aware that I probably know most of what your list is going to be and not wanting to pick the exact same movies as you. It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I came up with actually 10 movies, and I'll pick and choose depending on if you pick any of my picks. How about
Fuck, that's exactly what I did.
That's fine. That's fine. It's good.
It's like we know each other.
It is.
All right, Matt. But first, we have to talk about Maestro.
If summer doesn't sing in you, then nothing sings in you. And if nothing sings in you, then you can't make music. Something she told me.
Hello, I'm Lenny.
Hello, Felicia.
Oh, she's so beautiful. Tell me about her.
Oh, she's wonderful. She's a lovely girl.
What age are we living in? One can be as free as one likes without guilt or confession. Please, I know exactly who you are.
He can be the first great American conductor.
There's a price for being in my brother's orbit, you know that.
So, Matt, what is this movie all about?
This love story chronicles the lifelong relationship of conductor-composer Leonard Bernstein and actress Felicia Montiel Cohen Bernstein. Sorry. I don't know.
Beautiful. You know, I always said Bernstein. I don't know why.
I think I knew somebody named, I had a teacher named Bernstein, but it is in fact Bernstein. You can remember it because in the REM song, he goes, Leonard Bernstein. And we all know
the song that was being played by Leonard Bernstein in this movie.
Exactly.
This movie was written by Bradley Cooper and Josh Singer. It was directed by Bradley Cooper, and it stars Carey Mulligan and Bradley Cooper. So, Matt, a very interesting movie. I'm very curious what you thought of it. What did you think of Maestro?
Yeah. Okay. Some table setting, I guess. So first of all, I looked at the reviews, and there's like a perfectly U-shaped review curve where there's like a lot of 5 stars and there's a lot of 1 stars, and then there's like an inverted U distribution in the middle where like, so in other words, most people hated it or loved it. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of how I feel about it in superposition. Where there's a lot that I really like about it. I think we'll have no trouble talking about the positives, honestly. But also it was quite frustrating to me. I feel like we have a really hard time talking about biopics often, not always, but often. Mm-hmm. And this sort of had all of the issues common to biopics. uh, all in one movie. And that honestly, that's kind of what I didn't like about it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Scene to scene, performance to performance, moment to moment, thought it was pretty good. It held my interest. The acting was superb, honestly. But
Yeah.
kind of as a movie, it was weird, and I can go into that more. But I want to hear what you thought about it first.
I think weird is a perfect word to use for this movie. I think your enjoyment of this movie is directly correlated with how much you know about Leonard Bernstein, actually, because I didn't know a lot about him. But like I knew he was a composer and a conductor. I knew he wrote the music to West Side Story. That's about it. That's about all I knew about Bernstein. And I don't think this is a good movie for learning about Lenny Bernstein. As an all-encompassing like biopic of who he was and what he did and all these things. I think it's actually a very bad movie for that in particular. I think this is really interesting because while I agree with you, this does have a lot of the same problems that a lot of biopics have. This is not what I thought it was, which what I thought it was a bog standard musical biopic Oscar bait film. That just is like we're going to go through the whole life of this incredibly talented person from their rise to their fall or whatever. And we're just going to run the gamut, the film that we've seen thousands and thousands of times before. That's not what this movie is. This movie is not really about Bernstein's career. And if it is, it's only in how it reflects upon his relationship with Felicia, who is essentially the main character of this movie. Actually, like if you look at the billing, she's like listed on the cast list above him, which is really interesting. And it is essentially her movie. I mean, it's his movie too, and that gets into where I think the messiness of the film comes from, because it is supposed to be the story about these two people and their relationship through life and what it was like to be married to Lenny Bernstein, right? But then it's also kind of about him, and then it's not, and it is, I think it is really interesting because I really think Bradley Cooper was trying to do something very different with this movie. It does seem like he set out not to just make another musical biopic. He wanted to look at a person's life, but he wanted to almost look at a slice of his life, a specific aspect of his life, and really dive in and explore that. And that's commendable. And like you said, there are individual moments in this movie that I was completely blown away. Absolutely. Like some of the best acting I've ever seen, like really interesting composition of scenes and shots and things when Cooper, chooses to get right up in the characters' faces versus when he has this incredibly dramatic, acting sequence in which we're 20 feet away, really unable to even see the actors' faces. Like we're almost as if we're voyeuristically like viewing this argument. Like really great stuff. But yeah, like it's such a weird movie. Like we just kind of jump around and like again, like there are 3 or 4 sequences of Bernstein conducting and wonderfully shot sequences. But the music illiterate, like don't know why this is important. Like it sounds good, certainly, like great sound, love it, but like why is this an influential moment in his career? Like I looked it up afterwards, and the moment where he's conducting in the church is like this famously world renowned symphony that he conducted in this church. It was like a big moment in his career, but the movie doesn't really ever tell you that. It's just like, oh, you're just, I guess, moved by the music. I don't know. Like, it's so weird. It's such a weird movie.
Yeah. I agree with everything you just said. I actually called my mom after watching the movie for 2 reasons. Number one, my mom has been a classical musician her whole life. And so she's a great person to ask about what is a conductor exactly. Because I've always kind of had the impression that the conductor could be improved by replacing them with a metronome. but my mom actually told me that this is only usually true, and in the case of someone like Bernstein, he really could pull a genius performance out of an orchestra. And a lot of what he did was, in sort of the preparation for the performance. And he really, really understood the music. He was a musician's musician. He was a composer. He was he was an educator too. He knew what he was doing. And the funny thing is, I don't know, I didn't get that from the movie, right? Like,
No.
so my mom telling me this, I'm like, cool. I'm glad I know that about Leonard Bernstein. I feel that the movie let me down in that specific way where, because the movie is so hard on him in so many ways, he's almost like it's almost like a hit piece on Leonard,
He's the
on
antagonist
Bernstein.
of the movie, like
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing I'd say about it is like, God, if they ever make a biopic about me, just like, please don't focus on like all of my horrible like mistakes and just like compile all the times I was horrible to my family into a movie, and then maybe spice it up with a couple of scenes of my triumphs, like sort of both tonally and narratively disconnected from all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And then you just walk away, because you walk away feeling like this guy's a sack of garbage. And the thing is, I don't know if that's fair or not, because the movie is so sort of selective in what it shows. And to me, I'm like, well, but part of it is like, well, am I going to hold that against the movie, or that's just what the movie is. So
Yeah.
I don't know how to think about this.
And perhaps at the end of the day, that's just what Leonard Bernstein was, right? Like, and like, it's people are complicated, and I think this movie captured the complicated nature of his relationship very well. This is a guy who was married to this woman, basically his entire life, but cheated on her with men constantly, and in full knowledge of her. And it was an arrangement they made very early in their relationship that, like, I'm gonna let you do this because I love you and I understand the things that make you happy, and I'm going to allow you to do this. And of course, that's an easy thing to say in year one of a relationship. It becomes a more complicated thing to say in year 20 and 30, like it just, and that is kind of the story is of Felicia and her suffering and the misery that this arrangement brought to her in her life. That I think one of my favorite lines is like, I thought what I would get would be enough, and of course, no, I was wrong. I was never getting enough from him, and yet I was in this with him, and I did love him. I think there's parts of it though, like one of my favorite sequences in this movie is when the two of them are in their just incredible New York City apartment that is like just like on the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade route. Like all I could think of was just like, how much fucking money did this apartment cost?
Yeah.
And they're having this argument, and the Snoopy is walking by in the background because it's Thanksgiving and the parade is happening, and they're just right there in it. And they're having this argument, and essentially what the argument is Lenny is cheating on her, like, and she's getting tired of it. She doesn't know she can do it anymore. I think the thing that preceded this was he wrote a piece of music, and it was performed, and he's sitting there, and he's got his wife on his right, and the young boy Tommy, his I don't even know what to call it. Not his boyfriend, but
his lover, I guess, right?
Yeah, on his left, and it's Tommy whose hand he grabs and holds when the emotion of the music is kind of swelling, and she sees that. She gets really pissed off and like throws his shoes and toothbrush and pillow outside the door, and just says, "Fuck you." And so this is kind of the argument that precedes this. This is the argument that they finally come to terms with everything. And she's talking to him about how he has hate in his heart, and he's he's miserable because he hates himself. And I'm just like, I literally, like, the acting in this moment is incredible, but I have no idea what the fuck you two are arguing about right now. Like, I legitimately don't. Like, how does her unable to cope with his constant infidelity have anything to do with like his I don't know, his insecurity and his uncertainty. Like I don't know. I guess maybe that he needs these other people around him to prop him up. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like I'm stretching, and the fact that I have to stretch is, I think, because the movie is unclear about these things. But I think essentially what's happening is she has really soured on him by this point, and all of the things about him that used to be charming and sort of make him seem like this larger than life figure, she has decided, because she's so furious with him, it's like, actually all of that stuff that I thought was good about you, it's actually a manifestation of your profound character flaws, and you're actually a piece of garbage, and I hate you. And I'm just gonna, and furthermore, I'm just gonna say a bunch of stuff that's basically designed to make you feel bad about yourself.
Yeah.
And just lashing out. And there's a lot of sort of subtextual communication or
Yeah,
me-
certainly.
like what you could call meta communication happening within the marriage, which by the very nature of it, like, it is very realistic. Humans do communicate like this all the time, but as a film, it makes it incredibly hard to parse, like, okay, on what level am I supposed to interpret this? Because does she really mean, like, does she literally think that the reason why he performs orchestras is because he wants to show how superior he is to people, which is what she's saying? And the answer to that question is, maybe she kind of means it in that moment, but maybe really the reason she's saying it is to hurt his feelings. And those things can kind of both be true at once. And so I feel you in terms of it just never really feeling clear. And the thing is, I think I might even have loved this movie if the subsequent scene had actually landed for me, by which I mean the scene where, he gives that fantastic performance in the cathedral, and then she's there and he runs over to her and she's like, "You don't have hate in your heart." And you're like,
why do you think that?
yeah,
Is it just
where did
because
that,
the music was real good?
like, we're left to assume it's because the music was real good. And I'm like,
Yeah.
really? That fixed their marriage? The performance was so good that it fixed their marriage, I guess. I mean, and it's like, for all I know, the movie is actually saying that. It's like the power, the healing power of creativity, maybe. I don't, if so, it didn't land for me. And just
and it's
overall,
like,
yeah.
and it's almost as if like if that is the point, then her ending, the end of her life, I think contradicts that, because like, honestly, this is an incredibly sad story of this incredibly vivacious, strong-willed, fascinating woman who basically gave the entirety of herself up for this man who constantly, emotionally abused her and like ignored her needs and her wants, to chase after the things he wanted. And then she gets cancer and dies, right? And it's just like, that sucks. And it's true, it's what happened, right? But it is just like, I don't I don't know. I think you're right. Like, how am I supposed to feel about this? Am I supposed to be like, okay, well, at least West Side Story had really good music.
Yeah. I often felt like that, never quite sure what I'm supposed to be feeling about this. Like, during the scenes where she's sick, and you see, so like, you see Bernstein kind of finally do the right thing, which is like, people are calling him like, "Oh, you have to come do this, the thing," and he's like, "I'm not going to come do the thing. I have to be with my wife now." And perhaps I'm projecting, but I think Bradley Cooper does an amazing job here, because it's like, you're seeing in him almost implicitly, between the lines, this sense of like, oh, I've wasted all of my time with her. Like, I've been pursuing all these dalliances, when really like, this woman was clearly the love of my life, and like, this is by far the most meaningful relationship in my life, and she's going to be gone, and what the hell have I been doing? But the thing is, I'm like, am I just projecting that because I want to see that in the character for some kind of redemption? Because it's certainly not like in the script, but I also don't think I'm entirely wrong. And that leaves me feeling really uncertain,
Well, I mean, the thing is, and I think it's meant to be complicated because we go from. I agree with you that the moments of him and her final moments, like the screaming into the pillow scene,
Mhm.
just fantastic, really good stuff. And then we cut to years later, and we see him, being a teacher, teaching people how to conduct. Which, by the way, like this is the musical illiterate in me, like. He's conducting this. He's teaching this young conductor how to do things, and like the conductor does it a certain way, and then he goes, no, I think you meant to do this, and he's like, oh wow, you're absolutely right. And I'm sitting here going like, they sounded the exact same to me. I have no idea what you're talking about. And like, I'm not going to put that, like, that's not a flaw of the movie, in my opinion. That's a flaw of me and my complete inability to like understand and read music in that way. Like, I mean, I had the same thing with Whiplash, where like I still don't know if when he's telling him he's late or fast, like was that true, or is he just being an asshole? I don't know. I can't tell by listening to the music in that movie. And I think the same thing here is like, I can't tell what contribution he's giving to this kid, or what, like the characters react as if those, oh yeah, you're right, that was so I took that as okay. But my point here is like, he has that moment where he's like the elder one who's now teaching the younger generation, and then we cut from that scene to him with that kid in a club, like wasted and dancing provocatively with each other.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's not like he had this experience, he lost his wife and is like, oh, I lost the one relationship that mattered. I need to change. I need to, perhaps find another relationship like this if possible, or just, be with my children or something, or any of that. He's doing the exact same thing he's always been doing, except now she's gone. And I don't know what to make of that at all.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem with biopics. Really, is that is just what happened, right? Like,
Yeah.
and by that, I mean his wife did die, and then he continued to party
Hmm.
and have affairs with much younger men into his old age. And the thing about like a real person is like, yeah, I mean, life is long, and people are complicated, and it doesn't mean that he didn't love his wife and that he didn't
Yeah,
always mourn her, but like
sure.
but like in a film you kind of expect like for the narrative, for narrative purposes, it feels a little undermining to show that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, what's my point? Like seriously, Matt, what's your point? Are you saying that you thought they shouldn't have put the scene in? Or I'm like, no, because this is just the problem with biopics is in order to tell this story somewhat truthfully, you kind of have to torpedo the idea that you're going to have this coherent narrative.
Yeah. You, you,
Unless you're really good at writing.
you
I
cannot
guess.
encapsulate a person's entire life in 2 hours. Like, you
Yeah.
just can't do it. People are too complicated for that. And I think the best biopics, in my opinion, are the ones that get snapshots or slices
Mhm.
of that life and explore that and what that means, and perhaps using that as a reflection of the person's larger life. And I do think this is a movie that consciously said, I don't want to tell the story of Leonard Bernstein in totality. What I want to do is to tell the story of Felicia Bernstein, and in totality, and use that as a window into who Leonard Bernstein was, possibly by the woman that he spent his life with, sort of.
Mhm.
And I do think that's a noble goal and an interesting goal, and it, like, that is why I can't like dislike this movie entirely, is because I'm like so glad it wasn't just a normal bog standard biopic.
Yeah.
And I'm also like, as you said, like, I think the acting performances in this movie are incredible. Carey Mulligan was just so good. She was so good. And Bradley Cooper, like, I have mixed feelings about Bradley Cooper sometimes. I think he was phenomenal in this movie. I really do. Like, he's obviously doing an affect, right? Like, he's throwing his voice. He's wearing a fake nose to make his nose look a little longer to match Bernstein's. But I thought his performance was phenomenal. I do. Even the stuff that's like draped in the old age makeup, I thought was really, really effective too.
Yeah.
And I thought his acting was great. Like these there's individual moments and scenes in this movie that took my breath away. Like the first time we meet young Leonard, he's in bed in his small little New York studio apartment, and all we see of the scene actually is a window. It's daytime. There a giant window in his studio, with a black curtain draped over it. So we only see like the rectangular outline, right? And it's almost as if like this we're about to go like we're watching a movie or about to go on stage, and then he yanks back the curtain and suddenly we're sucked into this world and this energy of this guy's life. And I thought that was fantastically composed sequence. I loved that. And there's like there all throughout this movie it's just like, oh, Bradley Cooper's like really good at directing actually. And so it's almost more frustrating for me because I can see all these moments of greatness and brilliance in performance and acting and cinematography, that I just want the overall experience to be more cohesive. And imagine this with like a good script.
Yeah. Right.
And
That's
how good it would be.
That's like my entire problem. I mean, what's funny to me is I haven't said it yet in this conversation, but in my head, I think the issue is that I'm implicitly comparing this to the other biopic, Oppenheimer, um, which is such a good biopic that you forget it's a biopic,
Yeah.
because it's all oriented around like this specific event and this choice, and there's like a narrative thread that ties all of these real life events together, and it's all centered around him working toward this thing, and then as soon as he accomplishes the thing, he spends the rest of his life regretting and trying to undo it. And it's just a masterpiece of a script, setting aside everything else about it that's great.
Mhm.
And so it's in a sense unfair to compare this to Oppenheimer, because I really think that's kind of an all-timer. And I think I think we are gonna feel that way about Oppenheimer going forward, even though
Sure.
the memory of it is fresh. But yeah, just like especially in contrast to that movie, it's like, yeah, this is frankly what I expect from biopics, which is cramming in a bunch of stuff that really happened at the expense of a feeling of cohesiveness. Um, yeah, I don't know. Speaking of the acting, I think, I don't know, I had a lot of scenes that I really liked. I really loved, for some reason, one of the scenes where he's giving like a radio or a TV interview, and Bradley Cooper just kind of has this monologue, and there's a lot more nuance. There's just a lot of nuance to it.
Mhm.
I don't know what to say other than I was captivated by it in a way that I normally am not by Bradley Cooper. And it's not that I also just kind of generally think Bradley Cooper is a fine actor. He's never been on my list of like true geniuses, but
Sure.
I think this movie made me bring him up a couple of notches in terms of acting. And we mentioned it at the top, but the fact that he directed it is very interesting. And I guess I'm quite impressed by that, because I thought the directing was pretty good. There are a few places where I was like, well, I know Spielberg produced this and Cooper directed it, so this kind of feels like a Spielberg shot. So maybe Spielberg had some input here. On the other hand, maybe not. I don't want to take credit away from Cooper. I just overall, I thought the direction was good, even though the script itself wasn't great.
Yeah, it is. It is one of those things where, like, I think his skill as a director is in the composition and the moments within a scene, and
Mhm.
I think the problem is, yeah, that overarching flow and feel of the film, which I thought was just very, very messy from beginning to end. But I do like him as a director, and I think I feel like Bradley Cooper really needs to win an Academy Award as soon as possible, because like he's very clearly like has made it his goal in his career right now to win an Oscar.
Mhm.
And like I think the choices he's making and the things he's doing like very much seem like that is the case, and that's what he's going for. And I don't want, like, not entirely right. Like he didn't make this movie solely because he wanted to win an Oscar. He found something interesting in the story that in this person that he wanted to explore. But also, like, he definitely wants to win an Oscar really bad, and he's not going to win for this movie.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen in either director or actor. It's not going to happen. So I
Yeah.
want that to happen so he can move on to the next phase of his career. I think Leonardo DiCaprio is a great example of this, right? Where it was very clear for a very long time that Leo was desperately trying to win an Oscar. He really, really wanted to. And then he
Yeah.
finally got it. And it was for a movie that probably shouldn't have gotten it for, but who cares? Because he got it. And I feel like his career since has become 20 times more fascinating because he's still making great movies, but he's just it seems like he's much more in a zone of doing what he wants. And I think Killers of the Flower Moon is a great example of this because he didn't get nominated for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because he didn't really try that hard. I mean, he did try in the acting, but he didn't try to do the political maneuvering that one has to do to win an Academy Award. Instead, he was all about Lily Gladstone, and I'm going to get this person her Oscar. I'm going to use my power to make sure that she gets rewarded for this great performance she did. And I want that version of Bradley Cooper. I really do. I want the post okay, you've gotten what you want, and now because I do think he has a lot of talent. He's very funny, right? He's very good in comedy. And he also has this obviously great skill in directing that we're seeing here. And I really look forward to see where that goes. And I don't want him to spend the next 10 years just making movies just like this in order to get over that hump.
Right. Yeah. I mean, speaking of Leo's performance in Killers of the Flower Moon, that was in some ways a restrained performance for Leo. And, because it's not him drawing all of this attention to himself, it's him taking on the role, taking on the space within the movie that he should. Mm-hmm. And it which makes for a better movie. I think the movie was better because Leo was kind of he was staying in his lane and letting other people take their turn in the spotlight, and that's great. I basically agree with you with all that. I was just remembering for some reason that years and years ago I was watching this YouTube clip from inside the actor's studio, and Sean Penn was talking to the inside the actor's studio guy, and Sean Penn takes a question from the audience, and this is apparently a video from 1999, and the guy asking the question in the audience is some no-name wannabe actor named Bradley Cooper, who hasn't been in anything yet, but of course you recognize him immediately. Looks incredibly handsome, Bradley Cooper, right?
Yeah.
I just thought that was funny because it's not like this was planned or anything. It's just Bradley Cooper has been raring to go since 1999, right? That's the reason I bring it up, is I'm just thinking about this guy who was asking Sean Penn questions back before anybody knew who he was, because he wanted to be taken seriously.
Yeah, that's the weirdest thing about him is the first thing that most people saw Bradley Cooper in was The Hangover. I mean, he was in stuff before that, right? He was on the show Alias. I don't know if you ever watched that show.
Not really.
Actually, maybe Wedding Crashers was before The Hangover, but I think it was. But even still, the first thing we saw Bradley Cooper in, and I'm saying this, I'm remembering other things. What Hot American Summer was before Wedding Crashers. The point is, early Bradley Cooper was very much these kind of very silly comedic performances, and then the Hangover character is this classic dumb pretty guy, pretty boy performance that he's very good at. But it just I just remember being very surprised that this guy, the Hangover guy, is someone that is demanding to be taken seriously as an actor. It just seemed so kind of the opposite of what those roles were. But he's really planted his flag and doing this kind of thing, and I find it really interesting. The other movie he directed, I don't think you ever saw this, but it was the A Star Is Born remake, the one with Lady Gaga, which is a movie I really enjoyed. I actually ironically think that the script has some of the similar problems that this has, despite it not being a biopic, it being fully fictionalized. But I like that movie a lot. I thought it was great, and I am happy to see him continue to act and continue to get better. And it's kind of wild to me that Bradley Cooper could be one of our next great auteurs of cinema. I never would have expected that, and that's kind of where we're possibly at right now, and that's cool.
Yeah, I'm somewhat excited to see him if he's interested in continuing to direct, or if that was just kind of a thing he was trying out, because I really did think that some of the directing choices were quite interesting. You pointed out the one shot when the parade is going by, and then there's another one where they're having a completely different fight, and it's like the camera is
It's like in a bush, right? I know
yeah.
exactly what scene you're talking about.
It's like the last place I would have ever thought to put the camera. Yeah, it's like in a bush. There's like a fence blocking part of the frame, I believe.
Yeah. Well, and it's the exact kind of scene and performance from the actors that you think you'd want to see their faces.
Mhm.
You'd want to be right up there in there, seeing their faces and seeing their reactions to each other. But it's not that, and that's it's noticeable because you're just like, oh, this is a really interesting choice, actually.
Yeah, it makes you feel like you're witnessing something you shouldn't be witnessing. It makes you feel
Exactly.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And which is I think interesting. I think it's artistic, right? Because
Hmm.
we like the normal way to direct that scene would kind of make you feel invited into it and involved, and not like you're a weird creep who shouldn't be privy to this.
Hmm.
And a lot of the directing choices, it's like, oh, you're like really aware that you're watching this uncomfortable marriage argument, that is in a sense a private thing, a private matter.
Yeah.
I thought that was super interesting.
I agree. I guess maybe not complaint, but just like query about that would be like, to what end? It is a fascinating artistic choice. It is an interesting scene, and I think it does elevate the scene and make it more interesting. But like, are we trying to say something with that? Like, is one of the points of this movie that none of this shit is none of our business? Like that this complicated, often cruel arrangement between these two people is like something that maybe we shouldn't feel like we're privy to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. That's the thing, is you can't really say yes or no, right? It's like, yeah, maybe I that might be in there, right? I feel walking away from the movie like I'm not sure what the message is exactly, and
Mm-hmm.
and that's my biggest complaint about it, really. Like
Yeah.
that's the sort of shame of it, really, is my, if we were people who wrote reviews, my review would be very short. It would be like, incredible performances, amazingly constructed scenes, competent directing, excited to see what Cooper does next in directing. Doesn't give me a sense that I learned much about Leonard Bernstein, and leaves me feeling like I'm not sure what the actual narrative of the film was supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's my review. That's my entire review.
My quippy one-liner was wonderfully directed movie that is completely directionless.
I love it.
Like, and it's so confusing to me because there is parts of me that absolutely adore this, but like, if I look at it as compared to the other 4 movies we've covered on this so far, it has to be my least favorite. It just kind of has to be, which is a weird place to be in, because in many ways, like, I think it's better than a lot of these movies, but the sum of its parts like just make it so like I just don't. I feel like this is a miss for me. And I like what you said at the very beginning, that this is definitely either a love it or hate it film. That this is, it's very polarizing, and I think sometimes, the best art is polarizing. Like, I think it's cool that Bradley Cooper made a film that some people deeply, deeply love and find one of the best films of the year, and some people can't fucking stand.
Yeah.
And there's a small collection of people that are caught in the middle, and that's exactly where I find myself today.
Right. Well, I want to return to something you said earlier, which I didn't remark on at the time, but I totally agree that how much you know about Leonard Bernstein, I think, greatly influences your perception of the film.
Mhm.
Because from my perception, people who love Leonard Bernstein, usually people who are older than us, who have some familiarity with him and feel like he touched their lives in some way, they thought it was a great movie.
Mhm.
Because it's sort of showing the life of this man, the life and the accomplishments of this man, who in many ways was a hero to a lot of people, actually. Like, he was this, incredibly accomplished artist.
Yeah.
And, inspiring. But showing his life warts and all, showing his mistakes and et cetera. And it's like, for me, I knew nothing about this man. And so the movie, I guess it's kind of like, it's almost like the filmmakers forgot that most people don't
might not know about him.
Yeah, because like you go to see the Elvis biopic, it's like, yeah, everybody kind of knows. Even very young people kind of know who Elvis is. But I knew like nothing about Leonard Bernstein. So,
well, and I think charitably, that's exactly what's happening here. Is this is a film that, perhaps assumes the cliff notes of the career of Leonard Bernstein, and it's like, but we're going to tell you like the thing that you might not know about, which was this marriage he was part of for years and years and years, how complicated and messy and difficult that was, and what that experience was like for her, the person that no one talks about, the person that, like, I'm glad you talked about that TV interview, because in that interview she's in the scene, right? And like, it's this really fascinating thing where he's the focal point of everything, of everything, because he's Leonard fucking Bernstein, and she is an actress, a performer, and someone who did get to have a career, like not probably didn't get to accomplish everything she wanted to, but did have a career. But in all those situations, she's always going to be in his shadow, and she's always going to be the one sitting next to him, making quippy jokes about, like, she's the only one, like, she knows his schedule better than him, and that kind of thing. And I know we talked about her already, but I'm gonna just say it again. Carey Mulligan, like, just I was absolutely blown away by this performance. This is a woman I'd seen in several films before that I really enjoyed. I didn't know fully that she was capable of something like this, and it's like, she kind of almost, the film's called Maestro, but like, she takes it. It's her movie. It's like 100% is her movie.
Yeah.
And again, she's not going to win, I don't think, for this, but oh man, she should.
Yeah. I think maybe she should. I thought hers was my favorite performance, my favorite single performance out of most of the movies that we've watched, so far for this feature. It's interesting because, I mean, she's been working, it's not like she hasn't been working, but I just haven't seen her in anything since Drive, I think, which was what, 12 years ago, 13 years ago.
Oh God, no way.
And not that really means anything, because it's like, I don't see that many movies all told. But I was like, I don't know. It's cool. It's cool that she's, come back into the spotlight in this way. It's great.
I've liked her in every single thing she's made, right? She's good in Drive, although I don't think the movie's asking too much of her in that film, actually. She was in Inside Llewyn Davis, the Coen film that I really liked. She was in The Great Gatsby. She played Daisy in Great Gatsby. I thought that's a mixed success movie, but she was in Promising Young Woman, a movie that came out a few years ago, somehow 4 years ago now, actually. She's the lead in that, and she's very good in that movie. But again, it's not asking for like the subtlety and nuance of a performance in this, where she has to like simultaneously be this incredibly powerful, driven person that is just kind of absolutely dying on the inside. Man, I'm just like, I'm like sitting here like looking at pictures of her in this performance, just reminding myself of how just how fucking good this thing was.
Yeah. And we've complained many times, especially recently, at the complete lack of like romantic stories, I guess you could say, in movies we've seen recently. And hey, this movie had that. So
yeah, it did.
That's good.
Yeah, it did.
And they carried it. Like, it's important, right? It's not just like, does it have the story? It's like, do the actors sort of have some kind of chemistry? Do you believe it on the screen? I think that's what's been missing for me. It's not that there hasn't been an attempt at a romantic story. It's that it has had that sort of inert, these are two attractive actors and we're putting them on the screen together and they're going to kiss, and you have to believe it because they're attractive.
Yeah.
But these two, you really did feel the energy between them. You were pulled into their falling in love. You believed it. I really thought that was great. Just really appreciated that.
I agree. I totally agree. From the moment they lock eyes at that party when they meet each other that first time, it's just there. And I will say this movie does have a cheat code, and that cheat code is it gets to use the music of of Leonard Bernstein to accentuate every scene. Like I watched this with subtitles on, which like I didn't plan to. It just subtitles happened to be on. And the cool thing about that is like every time you move into a new scene and there's a new musical sequence starting up, it'll be like blah 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 by Leonard Bernstein. Basically, Matt, I don't know if you knew that, like every piece of the score of this movie is Bernstein's music, like every single one.
I did not. So
yeah. So like it's using one of the greatest composers and conductors of all time to enhance the film with its music, which is almost cheating, but also totally fair. Like there's I don't know, there's like the subtitles got to show me the titles of the songs too, and it's like one of them is like For Felicia and like it's just that was really cool and would have just completely gone over my head had I not happened to have the subtitles on. I mean, the only one I definitely caught was when they did the West Side Story song, because as I said at the beginning, it's the only thing I knew that he had composed.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't think of myself as being a musical ignoramus, since so many people in my family are like devoted musicians.
Yeah,
and I've messed around with instruments myself, but I just like my ignorance of Leonard Bernstein is making me reconsider my self-assessment because I'm like, it's as if I hadn't heard of Elvis. It's like it seems like it, right? He had this huge cultural impact. Apparently, he did these youth orchestra sort of teaching organization things that taught and influenced a lot of young people and taught them music, and just really had a big splash with his life and touched a lot of people. And I find myself kind of embarrassed at how little I know about him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you hadn't already talked to your mom on the phone, I think she would be calling you after she listened to this episode to tell you how disappointed in you she was.
I mean, that's honestly between you and me, Scott. And, that's kind of why I called her before the episode, because I was like, I feel like the movie has left me with this sense that this guy is a self-absorbed philanderer, and I don't like him. And but I also kind of feel like I'm being biased by the fact that this movie is 99.5% of the information I know about this man.
Yeah.
So I want to get a second opinion. And that's it. So that's why I did. I didn't want to. I didn't want to say a bunch of wrong stuff and like say like just make wrong deductions based on the movie.
Yeah. No, I think that's totally fair. So the only thing I'll say, and then we can wrap up, is you said you weren't sure if this directing thing for Cooper was going to be just like a one-off thing, or I guess technically a two-off thing or something. He's going to do more. In my opinion, right now, Bradley Cooper would rather win the Oscar for director than actor. I firmly believe that at this point, that like he would of course welcome it in either way, but I think being honored for best director would mean more to him than getting one for best actor. Like I feel like he feels that this is where he wants to go. And it is interesting that like he has put himself in both of the movies he's made. He's the lead here. He's the lead in A Star Is Born, although like in both movies he's the lead but also not the lead. Like technically the Lady Gaga in that one and then Carey Mulligan's character in this are probably technically more of the lead, but he's, I guess, the lead male role, I guess is we'll call it. And I'm always fascinated by that choice, because like on the one hand you can just look at that and read arrogance into it, right? Like I want to direct this movie and the only one who can do this part is me, but in the other, like I don't know, you see it as just this. I'm really interested in exploring all the facets of this character, and I want to have total control of that,
Mhm.
as I make that exploration.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know anything about Bradley Cooper, but just on the my my sense of him using my shine, um, is is that he's just like an energetic and creative person, and
Yeah.
and loves doing things and loves creating and loves everything having to do with the art of movie making. And so I don't really read any sort of particular. I mean, you don't get where he is without a certain degree of arrogance, but I guess I don't hold it against him.
Hmm.
It's like, go for it,
Yeah.
man. You do you.
So they there's this thing that's done, like, I forget, it's called like directors on directors.
Hmm.
Um, it's like a thing where a director like has a long interview with another director. Um, and Bradley Cooper had one with Spike Lee not too long ago.
Hmm.
Part of this thing is part of the many political things you do to try to win an Academy Award, because all of this is part of the game, right? I did
Yeah.
one with Spike Lee, and like, I don't know, like, he seems like he's like, I think you're absolutely right in that he's super energetic, and he had this conversation with Spike Lee, and he just like starts crying like immediately. He's just like I think Spike Lee says like one nice thing to him, and he's just like weeping. And I think it's very
Uh-huh.
easy to be snarky and make fun of that. Like, you're just like, tone it down, Brad. But I think it comes from this place of like genuine. I mean, the Inside the Actor Studio version of him there is still in there. You know,
Mhm.
this guy who is just so in love with this business and this craft, and like, it is so desperate to be a part of it, and to have an acclaimed director like Spike Lee talking positively about his film, like, just immediately overwhelms his emotions, because he cares
Yeah.
so much about this stuff.
Yeah, he just loves movies.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and it's, I think that's kind of why I said a minute ago, like, I just kind of vaguely like Bradley Cooper.
Yeah,
It's
I do
like
too. I do too.
he seems like a guy who really just loves movies and loves what he does and is trying really hard. And you want to root for somebody who is clearly putting their all into what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah. I have to love Bradley Cooper, because he's an Eagles fan,
Mhm.
and he was in that movie that was just pretending to be um, a drama, when it's actually just a movie about how great the Philadelphia Eagles are. I don't even remember the name of it now. What is it? Silver Linings Playbook. That's the one with Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. That's a David O. Russell movie. He did it, like, both him and Jennifer Lawrence did a thing where David O. Russell was trying very hard to win an Oscar. Um, and so he kept making movies, and both of them kept being in them. They like, I think it was God, it was this run. I think it's over now, but it was Silver Linings Playbook, American Hustle, Joy, Amsterdam, which came out just a couple of years ago. Of just like David O. Russell doing a thing, trying to win an Oscar.
Uh-huh.
And I think both Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Lawrence kind of hitched themselves to that. Lawrence won some Oscars for it. Bradley Cooper never did. And so I'm actually like very happy that he's moved beyond the I'm going to be in a David O. Russell thing and try to win an Oscar, and moved into I'm just going to make my own things.
Yeah, exactly. That makes me happy. Good for him.
Yeah. All right. So that is Maestro. I was very happy with this conversation. I didn't want to like come in and be the one like that hated this movie, because I didn't hate it, but I was just so torn on it, and I still am torn on it. But I think I'm settled with that. You know?
Yeah. I just want to send a memo to Hollywood to just do something different with biopics.
Yeah.
Like, don't
Man.
just yeah, because that's really, and again, I'm going to say this just one last time. Like, I feel like I'm almost being unfair, because it is a story about a true event, and so if you criticize it on the grounds that it doesn't make a very good narrative, it's like, well, it's not. It's a true event. It's true. It's true. So
Yeah.
it's not a narrative. And I'm like, okay, but I'm allowed to say that didn't really work on me super well.
Yeah.
And then I'm allowed to point to Oppenheimer and say, do that actually. So
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I did the same thing where you mentioned Oppenheimer. I was like, that's not oh wait, oh yeah, it is technically, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm there's this weird thing happening in Hollywood with biopics lately that I don't know if this movie is part of it. But like there's this thing they're doing where they're making these biopics and then like the people that the biopic is about are like producers on it. And that's always really weird to me. Like the Queen biopic that came out a few years ago, like the band was the producer on it. And part of like the contingency for allowing the biopic to use the music is we get some semblance of creative control. And so like if you watch that biopic, like it's very very nice to the other members of Queen. for
That's funny.
I wonder what reason that could be.
That's
And I think the same thing with the one that won Will Smith his Oscar the same year that he slapped someone. That is Serena and Venus Williams' father, right?
Yeah.
King Richard, I think it was. They were producers on that film, and that's like that's a little weird to me. It's just a little weird to me that like you're making a story about a person, but like the either the person or the person's loved one are like intimately involved in the story choices of the thing. I don't think this movie was made like that. Although I will say I did read an article that said that his children were like thought that Bradley Cooper captured their father perfectly, which I mean that's a pretty big compliment. But I don't think they were saying that as producers of the film trying to help sell the film to people. I think they were just saying that as people, which is just the weirdness of these kind of things.
Right. I mean, I guess nobody ever promised us that Hollywood biopics would be journalism, but I do admit I feel kind of strange about the idea that a film is basically just a kind of puff piece. That's like, well, why would I bother with that? Jesus.
Yeah, I mean it's a problem with the musical one specifically too, because like if you're making a musical biopic, like you want the music, right? Like of course you do. Like how can you make a movie about Queen and not have Queen songs in it, right? And so the band who owns these music kind of have you over a barrel where they can just be like, well, why don't you make sure the movie includes that part where Freddie Mercury was really mean to us and we never did anything wrong. Because he's dead and can't defend himself. And that's it's like, well, I guess if we want all the Queen songs in our movie, we have to do that. And it's like, I don't know. It is weird. Like that's the same. Like the Michael Jordan. It's not a biopic. Why can't I think of the documentary about Michael Jordan that came out a few years ago? Like he was the producer on that. That's weird. Like, it's I think it's even more weird when it's documentary, right? Like, because that is specifically nonfiction, and yet the case study of your thing is involved in the creative decisions of it. It just feels weird.
Yeah. I mean, you're sort of making a primary source historical document, but it's clearly going to be horribly biased because it's you talking about how awesome you are. I mean, I guess that can be fine if you're super upfront about it. Like if you know you're reading an autobiography versus a biography, then you're going to interpret the autobiography differly. You're going to weigh it, right? So you just have to know, I guess, as long as they're upfront about it.
I mean, and how do we define upfront? I guess it would be my question, because like, you could go open up IMDb and see that Queen were listed as producers on this film, but that doesn't necessarily mean like not everyone's going to do that, right?
Yeah, that doesn't strike me as being super upfront, but we should just make biopics and movies about people where everyone involved is dead and can't opine.
Yeah, it is this really interesting trend lately that we're like the amount of time that has to pass before we start doing these things is like a way less than it used to be. Like I don't know, the Netflix show The Crown just ended its run in December, I think, which is a show about the British monarchy, and like I watched all the seasons of that show and I really enjoyed it. And like when it's like Queen Elizabeth in the 40s and 50s, right when she took over, right, but we moved closer and closer to present day where the final seasons are about the death of Diana, and like all the people you're talking about here, with the exception of Princess Diana herself, are like alive still. And like you're like, you can just imagine her kids, the one of them being the future king of England, like watching this thing about when their mom died, and I'm like, this is weird.
Yeah, there should be some kind of waiting period.
Yeah. Also, Charles came out of that whole thing looking really good, so I can't help but think they were a little bit, hey, he's the king now. Maybe we should,
Totally.
maybe we should be a little kind to him. Like in earlier seasons, Charles comes off looking so shitty, and then in all this stuff, he's like, "Oh, Charles was actually really understanding and wonderful."
Yeah. He was the best of them. Yeah. Right.
Yes, King Charles. Yeah. Anyway, the total digression, but point is, Hollywood, fix your biopic shit.
Yeah.
We need to reinvigorate this whole genre of movie.
Yeah, well, and I think maybe I'm being overly optimistic here, but it's like I think Oppenheimer did that, and people just need to take note and rethink how they're approaching the idea of a biopic, and be a lot more aggressive in terms of restructuring, events and timelines and such to really emphasize the story that you want to tell about the person, instead of just this like meandering bullshit that has become the norm for biopics for decades at this point. I mean, that's just what, again, I expect nothing of biopics because they're always like that. They're always just like, they're
I mean, the film Walk Hard came out 15 years ago, 16 years ago, and yet like it completely destroyed that format of storytelling forever, and yet we've just continued to do that.
Yeah, you're right. This is conduct hard.
All right, so that is Maestro. It is available right now on Netflix. Did you think, Matt, would you have enjoyed this more if you had gotten to see it in the theater? Would it serve being a Netflix streaming release?
I mean, I think it probably would have been better than theater, if only due to the music and being able to hear it on like a theater sound system instead of in my earbuds or whatever.
That's kind of what I felt too.
Yeah.
Doof. All right, Matt. Speaking of going to the theater, we're going to do that at least 5 times this year, right? Because we have 5 very, very anticipated films that we want to talk about.
That's right. Totally.
I didn't go to the movie theater 5 times last year, and that makes me so sad because I used to go once a week.
Yeah, I know. I think I might have gone. There's a possibility. I probably went like 3 or maybe 5. I
saw Barbie. I saw. Oh my God, is that it?
That was it. I saw Barbie. I saw Oppenheimer. I saw the Marvels.
I saw the Wes Anderson film.
Yeah, I saw Guardians of the Galaxy.
At least 2. Oh, I saw that too. Okay, we're up to 3.
Okay, all right, that's 4 for me. I can't think of any more, but I probably saw one more in there somewhere.
Yeah, Avatar was the year before, right? Yes, Avatar was December. Okay, yeah. All right. Well, anyway, let's move into these 5 movies that we're definitely going to go see in the theater. So, do you want to go first? And I don't think these are in any particular order of like most of excitement, right? These are just 5 movies that we want to see.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get the most obvious one out of the way just because people are going to, expect it from me. Looking forward to Dune 2, Dune Part 2, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
What else do I need to say? I mean, it's like my favorite property. I was really happy with the first one. It's in good hands. It's going to be great. Looking forward to it. Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of new characters as well. Like Austin Butler, who played Elvis, has joined the cast. He's playing Fade Ralpha, and Florence Pugh is in it now. It's
Christopher Walken.
Yeah, thank you. It's I mean, like it's Denis Villeneuve, right? Like I feel like any year that Denis Villeneuve has a movie coming out, it will be on my list of top 5 most anticipated films. This is the only one that I'm gonna also put on my list and just copy you because like I can't not. Like, yes, I'm incredibly excited about Dune Part 2. Like, I was very bummed when it got delayed last year, and I'm very happy we get to see it in just a few months. Right? It's March. It's coming out March 1st.
I'm sort of trying not to think about it because I'm just if I think about it too much, then I'll just agonize over like counting the days because I really, really want to see this movie.
Did you see that Villeneuve said that Dune Messiah would be his last in this world? if it's not greenlit yet, but if they greenlight it, that it's definitely going to be the last one he's going to make.
I did not see that. I did see that he was interested in making Dune Messiah. I didn't see that he said that he would stop with Dune Messiah.
Yeah.
I think that's a smart decision, actually. I mean, just well, what's funny is young Matt would be furious about this, but Dune Messiah makes much clearer what the story is actually trying to do. I think Villeneuve is going to make clear what the story is trying to do with Dune because he is going to make sure you get it. But I think Dune Messiah, it's kind of nails it in.
Sure. Last question. Did you see the Dune popcorn bucket?
I did. It's the sandworm, right?
Yeah, it's a sphincter.
Yeah, the sandworm sphincter. Yeah, and you
butt.
stick your hand in, and then you can't get your hand out because
you stick your hand in the butt.
Yeah, it's perfect. I love it.
I think my favorite, like the internet just went wild with this thing, and I think my favorite was Alamo Drafthouse tweeted out, "It's like, no, we're not gonna have the stupid Dune popcorn bucket in our theaters."
Aw.
Well, I feel like it's like probably a partnership with a specific theater. Okay. I don't know that for sure though, but
yeah, probably.
It seems like one of those things.
It seems like it was expensive to manufacture, so there's probably not a ton of them.
All right, so Dune Part 2 was my other one as well. Okay. So we are back to you.
Back to me. Okay, for some lighter fare, I'm gonna have to go with Fall Guy, because it looks like a lot of fun, and it's got my current favorite actor Ryan Gosling starring. And in terms of like, Matt, are you gonna actually go see this movie? Yes, I will actually go see Fall Guy in the theater.
Yeah, for those that don't know, it is a Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt film about a stuntman played by Ryan Gosling and the director played by Emily Blunt, and I think she goes missing and he has to like go find her and do like an actual adventure thing.
Yeah, somebody goes missing. I don't know if it's her.
No. It's the star of the movie that goes missing, and they have to team up to go find him. And look, Ryan Gosling doing comedy is the best possible thing that could ever happen. So yeah, I'm here for this as well. Not on my list, but I'm definitely here for this.
Okay, yeah, I am. It's probably the most lighthearted of the things on my list, but it's definitely on the list. Yeah. All right, to you.
So my next one is something I definitely know is not on your list, and it's something that I'm picking out of extreme curiosity more than like actual interest, but it is called Horizon: An American Saga. Have you heard of this?
No, I've not.
This is a 2-part epic Western film completely financed by director Kevin Costner. The first part comes out in June, and then I think the second part comes out a couple months later in August. Like he spent $200 million of his own money, something just absolutely insane. And like I just like I think it's gonna fail, and that doesn't make me happy. But like it's gonna be massive. It's got him. It's got Sam Worthington in it, our boy. It's just this massive thing that he's trying to build as this big event, like this theatrical event, this 2-part theatrical event that's going to take place in June and August. And like, I don't know, man, I want it to be great and I want it to like blow up, but I just don't have a lot of confidence in like a Kevin Costner helmed Western being able to do that. I don't know. Maybe it pulls in. I don't know if you ever heard of have you heard of the Yellowstone?
Yeah.
That is just incredibly popular on. It's like one of the most popular television shows around. So maybe he's like banking on it's going to pull the Yellowstone crowd, which I think would make it a success, but I don't know. It's just to make 2 movies and spend so much money.
Yeah. I feel like it doesn't bode well that I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, true.
Like I feel like I should have heard of it by now, right? You know?
To be fair, I don't think the marketing apparatus has fully ramped up for it yet. But perhaps February, it's 4 months before it comes out, that it should be ramping up at this point.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, Kevin Costner's great. I
I
love
love it.
Kevin Costner in westerns. It's
Yeah.
like I mean, you've got me excited now, actually. So
Okay, great. All right, what's next for you? This is your third one?
this is my third one, and I'm gonna go with Inside Out 2.
Okay.
Love Pixar, love Inside Out 1. It's a fun concept. I'm definitely gonna take the kids to go see it in the theater. It's not even a debate. So I think it belongs on this list.
Yeah, the initial Inside Out was I think I called it Pixar's masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it was one of my favorite Pixar movies and possibly still is. It's just been so long since I've seen it. I am cautiously excited for this. Like it felt like a perfect complete film, and it's not like there's not more room for fun stuff to do here. It's just I'm a bit nervous about returning to this well again. Like I don't know. Outside of Toy Story, has Pixar's sequel fare ever like done really well?
I don't know about financially, but I feel like that's kind of the whole.
Artistically, I don't care about financially.
I don't know about like really well. Like I enjoyed the Cars sequels, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm honestly just trying to think of what other things they did that were sequels.
It's the
Cars,
Finding
Toy
Dory. I
Story.
think they made.
Finding Dory was. I mean, that's the thing is like I basically like every Pixar movie that I watch, and I
Sure.
love some of them. So, and I think yeah, I mean, some of the Toy Story sequels have been amazing. So,
Yeah.
um,
I mean,
you know,
arguably, like I don't know, 2 and 3 possibly better than 1, which was
yeah,
fantastic. So
yeah,
yeah. No,
possibly. Yeah.
I think this is a good pick. I'm excited for this. I think my wife and I are like debating. Like my son turns 3 in March, and like this summer we're debating like, oh, is he ready to try a theater with like a fun kids movie? Like which movie should we do? Probably not going to be this, but possibly. It honestly, it's going to end up being Despicable Me 4,
Yeah.
which just breaks my heart. But I think he will enjoy that stuff the most. Like I think yeah, I don't know, because this is supposed to be like the Riley character from the first movie, like as a teen now, right? And so it's going to be dealing with like wacky teen emotions, and I don't know how much a 3-year-old's going to get out of that.
Yeah, I mean, 3-year-olds in movies, it's like they're processing it on sort of a different wavelength than
Right,
we are
right.
anyway. I think I was able to take 3-year-olds to movies, and I would just keep them in my lap.
Mm-hmm.
And if they started to get fidgety, I would sort of I don't know how to explain it, but like there's a thing that you can do when you're trying to calm a kid down who's in your lap, where you just kind of like physically engage, like you're sort of I don't know, distracting them, like
Mm-hmm.
by playing, sort of playing with them in a way
Yeah.
that's not, not distracting anyone around you in the theater, yeah, which is exhausting to do for a 2-hour movie, but
No,
um,
sure.
but it is possible. Anyway,
Okay.
yeah,
All right. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe you will go see and tell me whether a 3-year-old would get anything out of it.
sure.
Honestly, I didn't think my 2 and almost 3-year-old was going to get anything out of Monsters University, but he's currently obsessed with Monsters University. So who knows?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. As long as it's got some cool imagery, I think a kid can really get into it at that age.
Yeah. All he talks about is the giant slug librarian that throws people out of the library when they talk. Like that's
That's
all he
great.
cares about in that movie.
Love it.
All right. It is my third pick, I believe.
Yep.
For my third pick, I am going to pick George Miller's Furiosa. This is technically a prequel to Fury Road. And like normally that would make me kind of roll my eyes and be like, do I really care where the Furiosa character came from? Do I need to see how she lost her arm? I don't really need to, but it's George Miller. It's Mad Max. I still think Fury Road is quite possibly the best action film ever made. And this trailer looks like more of that same fun weirdness, and it has Chris Hemsworth in it being weird, and weird Chris Hemsworth is the best Chris Hemsworth. So
I agree.
I am completely pumped for this movie. It's coming out pretty soon. It's in May, I think. And it also has Anya Taylor-Joy, Anya Taylor-Joy as
Yeah.
the Furiosa character, and I love her too. I think she's fantastic. So I think this is gonna be great. And I really want to see it.
Yeah, no, I left that off my list because I knew you would put it on your list. But I am excited to see that as well. I mean, yeah, I actually I'm very excited because of all the reasons you just said. It's like it's like guaranteed to be great, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah.
I
Okay.
just to remind people, Chris Hemsworth, extremely funny person. I've been watching the Ghostbusters movies over and over and over again, Matt, because my son is obsessed with Ghostbusters, including what he calls Lady Ghostbusters, which is the all-female cast. Not a good movie, by the way. But Chris Hemsworth is in that movie as their secretary, and he is so fucking funny in it. He's so great in it.
Yeah. No, I've seen that movie. I know he's good. I mean, a lot of what he's doing is ad-libbing, and it kind of makes no sense, but that's fine.
My favorite part is when he's in the interview and he scratches his eye, and he does it like by just reaching through the frames of his glasses because he's not wearing any glass. It's like they just kept getting dirty, so I just took them out.
Yeah. My favorite part is basically the same scene where he keeps trying to reach out to touch the fish and his fingers hit the glass, and it keeps being a surprise to him. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Great. Okay. What is your number 4?
Yep, number 4 is Drive Away Dolls. It is a film directed by Ethan Coen, so not the Coen brothers, one of the Coen brothers. And it's written by Ethan Coen and Trisha Cook, who happens to be Ethan Coen's wife. And the reason I'm going with this one is basically just you look at the trailer and you think, hey, it's one of those. It's one of those Coen Brothers movies that I love, and it's got the tone and it's got the wacky kind of fast-paced, exciting, enthralling vibe that you want. And yeah, it's true that it's not both of the Coen Brothers, but it really the trailer really feels like it. It's got a bunch of actors I haven't heard of, but then it's got Pedro Pascal in there. It's got Matt Damon in there.
It's got Margaret Qualley is the lead, right?
Margaret Qualley, I don't know who that is, to be honest. So,
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, she played one of the Manson girls.
Okay, cool. I mean, it looks great. I didn't recognize her, but sure, yeah, I didn't recognize either of the leads. But yeah, it looks like
she was in The Nice Guys as well.
Okay,
I can't remember what her role was in The Nice Guys.
Apparently, I'm just an idiot. Oh, was that when she was like really young, or yeah, I don't know.
No, she wasn't the daughter, Ryan Gosling's daughter. I think. Okay. Oh, she was the woman they were looking for, the missing woman. Okay. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. So that's my number 4.
Great pick. For my number 4, I am going to pick Nosferatu. This is the newest Robert Eggers written and directed film. I don't know if you've seen any Eggers film. He did The Witch, he did The Lighthouse, he did The Northman. He's this extremely art house bent, weird, wonderful, creepy director who is taking on one of the original vampire stories. This is a remake of that very first movie. It has Willem Dafoe in it, and so it's a creepy vampire movie with Willem Dafoe in it.
Yeah, say no more.
I'm sold. I don't think we've seen a trailer for this yet or anything yet, so this is really just going off of actually, I think we have either. Well, I think we've seen little clips. I don't think we've seen too much about it, but I love Robert Eggers. He's so weird. He's so creepy. The Northman is just wonderful. I don't know if you ever saw that, Matt.
No, I saw The Witch. Never saw The Northman. I've been meaning to watch The Lighthouse forever.
Oh my gosh, The Lighthouse is so wild. I was drunk at Fantastic Fest when I watched that movie, and I was going insane.
Well, I'll get to it eventually.
Yeah. So that is my 4th Nosferatu. All right, Matt. You got one more. What is your final anticipated film?
This sucks because I was hoping you would knock out some of my other films so I could get my 5th and my 6th in here.
Well, see, I was doing the same thing with you though. I was like picking things that I knew you probably wouldn't pick.
I know. This is horrible. But the reason is I really can't decide between these last two, and I don't know anything about them. Maybe
Well,
maybe I'll pick one and then I'll briefly mention the other one and not go
yeah,
into it too
there's no
much.
rules here, man. We made
No,
this up.
you told me, Scott, over an hour ago. You told me we were doing top 5,
Hey,
and I picked
hey.
5. Okay, fine. I'll do both of them. So I know nothing about this beyond the trailer that I just watched, but the movie is called Civil War, and it's about America having a civil war, and it seems to have. I don't want to get the actors wrong, so let me pull that up real quick. Sorry, I should have done this a second ago.
It's Kirsten Dunst is the lead.
Kirsten Dunst is the lead. It's got 7 million actors in it. No, that's Captain America Civil War. That's a totally different Civil War. All right, it's got Kirsten Dunst. It still has 7 million actors. It doesn't have the one actor that. Oh yeah, it's got Jesse Plemons. So that, like, honestly, to be totally honest with you, I was kind of on the fence about the movie until I saw Jesse Plemons' character in the trailer, and then he's just so creepy. He's so goddamn creepy, and I was like, I want to see this movie now. I want to see Jesse Plemons be disturbing, because that's one of my favorite things happening in film right now is Jesse Plemons being unnerving. So and just overall, it's kind of an interesting concept for a movie. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of discussion about it because it's about a literal civil war happening in America in the not too distant future.
There already is. Don't you worry, Matt. When this trailer came out, the internet was ablaze with takes, and they were all stupid because no one's seen this movie yet.
I love takes that are uninformed.
I think the important thing to say is that this film is written and directed by Alex Garland, who did Ex Machina, who did Annihilation. This is a director that we both really, really love, and writer that we really love.
Yeah.
And this is his latest film. So I figured you were going to put this one on your list. That's why I specifically didn't pick it. But yeah, I mean, I'm here for everything Alex Garland does. Like, I think the thing that annoyed me most about the takes was like, was this idea that this was going to be like a conservative right wing depiction, and I'm like, you don't know Alex Garland at all if you think that. Like, there's no fucking, like,
yeah.
I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be like, it's not going to have, I think, any specific clear like allegiance to anything. It's just going to be a really interesting examination of America. Like, I think Alex Garland, by the way, is English, and so like I think we've talked about this before with some of the other English British writers and creators, like really examining America. Sometimes bring the most interesting ideas and lenses and angles on things, because they're looking at it at not from the inside but from the outside. And yeah, I just can't see this as not, at very least, really, really interesting.
Yeah. Interesting is the word I was going to use as well. And yeah, you're totally right to mention Alex Garland. I mean, you can tell from the trailer that it's going to be something really special. So yeah, that's my number 5.
The take that annoyed me the most was, like, I think they briefly show like a map of what Civil War America looks like in this movie, and it seems to imply that the nation of California is allied with the nation of Texas against the
Union.
The Union, I guess. Yeah. And like, just like everyone's like snarky takes of like, if you think that's true, you clearly don't understand Texas and California. And I'm like, shut up, watch the movie. Maybe they explain what's going on here in the movie. Maybe it's a little bit more complicated than the 40-second teaser trailer you saw.
Yeah. Ugh. I mean, that's such a profoundly uninteresting take that I'm falling asleep. Yeah. Okay.
Great pick. No, seriously though, great pick. I too am very, very, very curious about this movie. I never saw the Alex Garland movie he did a few years ago, called Men. I saw the trailer for that, and I was really interested in what that could possibly be.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting.
I never saw it.
I feel like you and I talked about the trailer, and then I never even heard about it again and forgot it
Yeah.
existed until this moment. So no, I did not watch it.
Yeah, I mean, it was 2022. Is like technically the pandemic type closures were over, but still people weren't going to the movies. And this is a small movie. Probably wasn't in theaters very long. I need to get on this and watch it. It actually got very mixed reviews, which only actually makes me more interested in it, possibly.
Yeah, right. I agree.
Yeah. All right. So that is Civil War. It is coming out. I think it's this summer, right? Or maybe it's soon.
I believe it is April.
April. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. So my last one, and then I think we will do like, we'll cheat a little bit after that because I also have a couple more. My last one is a movie that just premiered at Sundance Film Festival last week. It is a Steven Soderbergh film called Presence. I know very little about this movie except for it is the IMDb summary for it is showcases a suburban house inhabited by a mysterious entity.
Okay.
My understanding is it's a haunting ghost story from the perspective of the ghost.
Oh,
And
fun.
I'm really into Steven Soderbergh and the things he's been doing, like ever since his third retirement, the movies he's been continuing to make, even though he said he was retired. Really, really into these. He's always doing really fascinating things. And this is one of those ones that, like, I think it was announced in December. Like, no one knew it was coming. And then, like, in December, they were like, oh, by the way, a new Soderbergh film is being premiered at Sundance in a month. Surprise. And reports out of Sundance were that people were walking out of the theater because it was too scary. And like, man, you hear those kind of reports at film festivals all the time, and like every bone in my body is like, bullshit. Like, I don't believe you. But it is still enough to like perk my ears up a little bit and be like, oh, I want to check this out. So
Yeah.
I think it was acquired by Neon, the Alamo Drafthouse like wing that is doing quite well actually. So it'll probably get theatrical release at some point this year, but I don't think it has a definitive date yet. So this is like the one I've picked that might not end up actually coming out this year, but I think it will.
All right.
So
cool.
what are your honorable mentions that you had?
Yeah, the one that I didn't know what to do with because I really just learned that it existed and I know nothing about it. It's called Love Lies Bleeding. And I found the trailer very compelling. It stars Kristen Stewart, who I've been just kind of increasingly impressed with as distance from Twilight increases. And a bunch of other, I mean, it's got Ed Harris. It's got a bunch of other interesting performers that
Ed
you
Harris.
would,
Okay.
right? Like, yeah. And he's being creepy and it's great.
Of course.
And the premise is, reclusive gym manager Lou falls hard for Jackie, an ambitious bodybuilder headed through town to Vegas to in pursuit of her dream. But their love ignites violence, pulling them deep into the web of Lou's criminal family. So it's basically a sort of gosh, what's the word? Noir is not quite the word, but it's like it. I'm blanking on the term for this genre for some reason. One of those movies.
I think noir might work, like a thriller crime, like neo noir type thing.
Neo noir crime thriller with a couple of twists thrown in there to keep it fresh. It just looks like it's going to be super intense. And as soon as I saw the trailer, I was like, I don't know that I can promise I'm going to see this in the theater, but it really hooked me from the trailer.
That's really cool. I had not heard of this movie, and I'm looking it up as you're talking here. And this was written and directed by a woman named Rose Glass, who actually directed a film that came out a few years ago called Saint Maud, which is a horror film that was released by A24 that scared the bejesus out of me. Looks like she's not doing horror with this one, but I enjoyed her, so I think I'll check this one out too. That's cool.
Awesome.
My honorable mention is a film called Hitman. And not The Killer. Hitman. This is one that I knew was not going to be on your list because it is a Richard Linklater film.
Very clever.
About a hitman. I guess like I love Linklater. I know you don't, but I do. and I'm really, really curious about this one. I think it premiered at TIFF earlier this year. It was acquired by Netflix, so it'll probably be out on Netflix. I don't know, any day now. Who knows what Netflix is doing? It stars Glenn Powell, who played the asshole pilot in the new Top Gun film, as a hitman. And the only thing I'm worried about this thing is that like Fincher fucked Linklater by making a hitman film that like explores and examines like the concept of being a hitman already, and that's going to kind of steal its thunder. But it got good reviews. The trailer looks really interesting, and you know, I love Linklater, so I'm here for it.
Okay. This is not about the video game franchise, I assume.
It is not. It is not. No.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I've not heard about this either. So
yeah, and that's 2024. I mean, there's a bunch of other stuff that we didn't talk about here, Matt. You know, Gladiator 2 is supposed to come out this year. I have no idea.
Yeah, not either.
Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire.
Saw that.
Fuck I mean,
there's a movie called The Beekeeper where Jason Statham punches men.
Yeah, that's already out.
Okay, yeah, that's all I know about it, and that's all I need to know about it, to be honest.
Unfortunately, I heard some bad things about that movie, which is that at no point in the film does Jason Statham use bees to kill anyone, which is the biggest missed potential of all time.
That's true. There's what looks like a fun comedy called Argyle.
Yeah, that's I think out this weekend. Getting just awful reviews.
Okay, yeah, well,
which makes me sad because I thought it looked fun too.
Yeah, it didn't make my list, but it looked like it might have been funny. Yeah. It's got Bryce Dallas Howard. I don't know, whatever, it's fine. It has Sam Rockwell was really what caught my attention, but overall, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah. And of course, we've got Sonic the Hedgehog 3 featuring Shadow the Hedgehog. Oh.
Well, okay, I'm definitely going to go see that in the theaters.
We've got Kung Fu Panda 4.
Yeah.
We've got Bad Boys 4. Which is still listed as untitled fourth Bad Boys film. And it's supposed to be coming out this year.
There's, Planet of the Apes, 4 or 5 or whatever number we're on now.
I almost put that on my list because I really, really loved that original Apes trilogy.
Yeah.
Not original Apes trilogy, obviously, like the reboot Apes trilogy that was written and directed by Matt Reeves. I didn't put it on my list because Matt Reeves is not involved with this movie at all, and so like I want to see it, but I'm not like super confident in it.
Right, I agree.
I think that's pretty much it. Like there's one Marvel movie coming out this year, Matt. Only one, and it's Deadpool 3.
That's insane. That's the craziest thing I've heard all week. One Marvel movie, and it's going to be like, if not rated R, then highly inaccessible to children.
Yeah.
So
I'm pretty sure it's rated R. Yeah. There's also, I'm surprised you didn't put Joker Folie à Deux on your list.
Yeah, I forgot about that one, man. Yeah, whoops, my bad.
It is the Todd Phillips directed sequel to the Joaquin Phoenix Joker film that will also be starring Lady Gaga and might be a musical.
I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that it's going to be a musical, which makes me somewhat more excited, but not that much more excited.
Yeah, I thought the first Joker film was just fine, and I thought the worst part about it was the discourse about it, actually. So I'm not like excited about this, but I'm not like dreading it either. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
I like Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, right. That's that's kind of my whole vibe with that whole thing is like, yeah, okay, Joaquin Phoenix, sure.
Yeah, but that's kind of the year, that's what the year is shaping up to be. Lots of sequels as usual. I think as is always true, sometimes the best movies of a year are the ones that you didn't know about going into it, right? We put these lists together and I think Dune 2 is going to be great, but I think the things that I'm going to fall in love with are probably things that I don't even know exist yet. So
yeah.
All right, that was a good list. Well done. You did your homework good.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
But that's going to do it for us this week. So if you have any opinions about Bradley Cooper's Maestro, or just want to share your top 5 most anticipated films of 2024, you can do so in a few places. You can reach out to us via email at doofmedia@gmail.com, over on X at doofmedia, or you can go to reddit.com/r/doofmedia and respond to the thread for this very episode right there.
That's right. And please subscribe to the Doofcast if you've not already done so. You can find us on any of the major podcasting platforms.
And if you like what we do here and want to support us, consider becoming a patron of Doof Media. You can head on over to patreon.com/doofmedia and donate and pledge at any of the available levels there. You get a whole bunch of bonus features, including the ability to vote in our monthly book club, which if you're listening to this on Friday, the 2nd of February, that book club is tonight at 9:30 p.m. We're going to be taking a look at Justin Cronin's The Ferryman for our first book of 2024. Well, we'll save it for that conversation. I have a lot of things to say about this particular book, and I know you do as well, Matt.
Yeah, I feel like maybe it'll be similar to this conversation in some ways, actually. But
I think you're right.
We'll talk about it then.
Yep.
Also, we would really appreciate it if you'd give us a rating and review over on Apple Podcasts. Each review does help us get more exposure and introduces new listeners to the content we make here.
And that's going to do it for us this week. Quick programming announcement, by the way. Next week, we actually are going to take off. Matt is going to be traveling for work next week, and we just couldn't make it work to record an episode. That does leave us in a bit of a sticky situation, though, because we had kind of timed this perfectly, or as perfectly as possible, that we would finish all 10 of these movies right before the 2024 Oscars. By skipping next week, it means one film is going to bump into the week after the Oscars, but that's not that huge of a deal. None of you guys watch the Oscars anyway. Nobody watches the Oscars anymore.
Nobody watches the Oscars, which is really helpful for us.
Yeah. So we will be taking off next week, but we will be back 2 weeks from today with our next film, which is going to be a movie called Past Lives, one of the ones I was most looking forward to on this list, Matt. So I can't wait to watch that and chat about it with you.
Awesome.
But until then, enjoy your week, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Bye-bye.
My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.